All right, I think we're live. Oh, not, yes, I think we are. Here we are. This is CRInvestor and Flibbr's cryptocurrency show for Wednesday, April 30th, 2014. This is CRInvestor Brian Beamish coming to you over YouTube and Google Hangouts. We've posted the tweets. We've posted the room information on the website. Looks like we're good to go here, so I can mute YouTube so we don't get blasted there. And a special treat tonight. Let's see how this works. Andre, how are you this evening, my sir?
Arr. Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Brian. It's doing the pirate look today. Pirate Bitcoin.
I have to mute myself or else the camera goes off, but I'm laughing so hard. Does that mean that you're taking no prisoners in cryptocurrency land? Have you declared war on civilization? I guess being a pirate, actually, the pirate is the ultimate anarchist, eh? And
Yeah.
Austerian. I mean, that's the definition of austerity at a gunpoint, right?
Yeah, definitely. Us Bitcoiners, we're taking no prisoners in the financial world, the political world. You know, this is the largest socio-economic experiment, you know, ever done, political as well, and we're out there to crush everything that stands in our path. War.
And now you have to finish off with resistance is futile.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, great to see we've got a fairly full lounge. Our little spammer is back. Mitar blasted us with a whole bunch of spam a few minutes ago, and he's back. So let's see what he hits with us now.
But this hangout is about the Bitcoin.
Right, Mitar, we will open up the floor to questions and answers as time goes on. Basically, if you can see my screen, we do have a format, a path that we like to follow. This is basically a 2-hour show. And really, it's for those people that really like Bitcoin and want to learn about Bitcoin. Basically, we're going to take the first maybe 10, 20 minutes, talk a little bit about sort of what's happened fundamentally in the market and whether there have been any specific drivers of the Bitcoin story over the past week. Then I'll probably spend about a half an hour or so doing my Bitcoin chart review. Flibbr then, he has a segment as our resident trader extraordinaire, pirate, scalper. There he is in the flesh. What a handsome gentleman, I swear. And if anything, I think the colors actually bring out the best in you.
To say it doesn't make, you know, do my eyes look good?
Anyway, so hopefully everybody out in internet land and in our forum has a sense of humor. Flibber's gonna play with us a little tonight with his costumes. So just getting back to the format, and then the last half hour, what we usually like to do is open up the floor to question and answer. And if you have specific questions for the panelists or anybody in the community, you know, that's the time to ask, Mitar. So. That's basically what our general format is, and you know, I fully expect people to pop in and out. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. As for the rest of our panelists, how are you guys tonight? Anybody want to say hello?
Hi.
Wow, there was an excited hello. Who was that?
How are we doing? The guy who came out of hospital today.
Yeah, oh, is that Brian? Brian's feeling a little bit ill, so I can appreciate if he's a bit delicate. You know, I just want to say a nice hello to all of you. Thank you very much for being in the lounge with us. We may call on you at some point for your opinions or thoughts. Welcome. Welcome everybody out there in internet land. Flibbr does a great job of marketing this show over on Reddit, and I'm over on TradingView touting it. And on TradingView right now, Flibber's talking about how much of a pirate he is. So, you're more than welcome to try and find us there. I have my website myself on the rationalinvestor.ca. This site itself probably won't stick around too much longer. But you can always learn a little bit about me and take advantage of some of my free resources. And it's strongly suggested by others that at the very beginning of these programs, I'm supposed to make my my donation plug. So here it is. If you appreciated the show tonight, if you found value in it, if you got some new trading ideas, we'd love to feel the reciprocation of that, good karma, and you can go to the rationalinvestor.ca, and if you feel so motivated, you can click on the donate button, and that pulls up the wallet address, and we'd love you very much. Any help that you can give to our Bitcoin fund. Andre, I think you have a wallet donation thing, don't you? I don't know. You don't have any website anymore, do you?
No, I haven't. I haven't got a Bitcoin donation either. I think just send all donations to Brian. I'm happy with that.
Oh, you're a sweetheart. All right. For the record, all my Bitcoin donations are basically going towards building the Bitcoin fund. As per my recent posts, I've been a bit of a bear of late, and I hopped off above $500, and I'm just sitting in cash right now waiting for the market to bottom, and then I'll get back in. So full disclosure for you, basically I do trade these coins that are donated. All right, so that's a nice little intro. Hopefully you got a good idea of who I am. You can tell by Flibber's appearance tonight that we do have a sense of humor. We like to have fun at what we do here, I guess the point here is that hopefully while we have fun and we're in good spirits, we do a little bit of learning too. So with that said, it's about 5:15. I wouldn't mind just throwing the question out into the lounge, and if anybody wants to chime in, feel free. Same as you, Andre. Anything on your guys' minds in particular that came up as fundamentally significant over the past week?
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Tell us.
Well, I would just say today basically we had the two more additional banks, plus we had some payment processing ones in China. They've really come out hard saying anybody with an accounting with Bitcoin, they've got the right to close it down. And whereas before we were seeing kind of $100, $50, big moves off that, today we just saw one panic dump rebounded instantly, and it was like nobody cares anymore. Like China's completely and utterly it's almost completely locked down. Nobody seems to even care.
It feels to me like that news is kind of like old news now.
Yeah, overplayed.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit dangerous for the Chinese government to shoot the water, the whole thing the way they've done, because, and you've heard me say time and time again that I'd be very, very cautious of listening or believing anything that you hear from the Chinese government. And what I've seen now 2 or 3 times is the Chinese government comes out, makes this proclamation, the event happens, and then the market rallies. So, all that tells me is it feels as though it's being a bit manipulated. So
Yeah.
I certainly hope that's not the case. I noticed that on the CoinDesk here, I don't even see any Chinese news on the front page anymore.
Yeah, and then also today we had the Bloomberg terminal. I mean, we know it's been on there a while, but obviously came out more mainstream today. So
Yeah, well, and that's something that I found interesting too, is that, and that's one reason why I sort of came to TradingView, was that, just getting charts on Bitcoin itself is kind of tough.
yeah,
So, like if you go to Yahoo or something like that and you ask for a Bitcoin quote, you can't get it. So, maybe that's changed, but, as of last time I looked, it still wasn't being, because all my algorithms and stuff that I use on my website are based off of Yahoo data, their database. So the fact that Bitcoin wasn't in the database meant that I couldn't, scrape their data. But,
well, when I saw the Bloomberg news, I thought to myself, it's another good reason to buy. And I just wonder out there how many other people are starting to see good news and say, that's another good reason to buy. Because the China news of another reason to sell seems to be wearing a bit thin, and I just wonder whether good news is starting to turn into another good reason to buy.
Well, what I find really interesting too, of course, is that as we'll see on the charts in a little while, this is the area where institutions should be buying. If they were going to be buying, this is the time for them to be buying. So what a coincidence, the public has kind of completely lost interest. And, this China sort of, I don't even know what you call it. It drones on and on and on, and it's the same story day after day. And the funny thing is we watch these pump and dumps off of this China news, and it's the same thing day after day after day. And I think, like you said, that's old news now. That's not new news. I personally think that there's still an event around this early May deadline with this Mt. Gox court decision in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys on the panel think that that's going to be an influencer here?
Well, the Mt. Gox deadline, I don't know really, because I just don't think that many people are. I mean, because if the coins are going to be liquidated, they're going to be sold off the exchange anyway. So I mean, that's what you say. Oh, well, there's 200,000 coins that are going into, some purchasers' hands. That could create a selling pressure, and it might do. But I mean, let's also not forget that 600,000 that are missing, they're out there in somebody's hands right now.
Well, I would argue that if you had an insolvency event, then those coins would be transferred very quickly and the story would be done. Done. Over. Right? Maybe the market goes down a bit, but at least that would be hindsight now. That wouldn't be foresight. Yeah. If, however, they're not liquidated, then that soap opera goes on.
Yeah.
That's sort of the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So if anything, if you're bullish, you kind of want, it's kind of like China, In my opinion, I think the best thing to happen to the bulls is you say, okay, fine, China, just do it, done. You cannot play the Bitcoin game anymore. It's over.
Yeah.
Just get it done, But this nonsense of waffling. I mean, I heard somebody the other day saying, well, the reason why the banks aren't complying with the Bank of China's regulatory issues is because the Bitcoin issue is just too small for them, and that most of these major bankers, they can't even be bothered spending the time addressing this Bitcoin. If we continue talk like that, he said, she said, pointing fingers and all that, then this silly thing just goes on and on and on and on and on. And really all this is just a distribution event. And slowly the Bitcoins will move from the weak hands and back into the strong hands.
Well, even though China's got this multi-billion-dollar shadow banking sector, and they've just got just more millionaires there than kind of anywhere else in the world, billionaires. Even though they've got all this stuff, they're so worried about this tiny little market cap, coin with no integration or implementation hardly anywhere, and they're worried about it. And every state in the world is worried about it. There is not a state out there that's not worried about Bitcoin. 100%.
Well, what I find interesting, and I think what will happen, is, like during the Great Depression, the way to solve the problem of a deflating currency base was to peg it to a hard asset. And, like historically, they've used gold or silver or something along those lines. And what I'm seeing, and if I understand it correctly, is this go round it won't be pegging their currency to a hard asset like gold. It will be like Iceland, where they just turn their currency into a Bitcoin currency, where they can't fudge with the numbers. Now, my personal feeling is I don't think we're going to actually see whether these cryptocurrencies are for real until after the next major recession. I mean, believe it or not, as an economist, we're not actually technically in a recessionary market right now. We're in an inflationary market, and I believe that this is the exact same scenario with the dot-com stocks. Prior to the year 2000, everybody was rah internet.com, but you didn't actually see who was going to survive and who was really going to thrive until after that 2000 recession. Then they washed out all the pets.com nonsense plays, and those that actually had revenue streams and had fundamental stories for existing, they survived. So, I could, what I do see, which is interesting, and we've talked quite a bit about this, is I'm seeing now a proliferation of these altcoins. And what I think is going to end up happening is at the end of this cycle, into the 2017-2018 peak, the world is just going to be a flood with all these cryptocurrencies. And then all the exchange-traded funds on all the cryptocurrencies. It's going to be absolute mayhem to try and keep track of all this stuff. Yeah. And I think, it'll be the next recession when a lot of this garbage that's just nothing more than hype, it'll all be flushed out, and we find out whether this stuff is for real or not. But right now, it's a speculative bubble. Enjoy the ride. Yeah, well, I didn't either, Pete. I mean, that's the thing. Andre is very good at marketing, and if you look at how he's a pirate tonight, you can tell he's pretty computer savvy, so he can drum up quite an audience for these shows. So, all right, so it's about, I don't know, is there anything else the panelists want to mention that might be a fundamental driver here now that we're talking about fundamentals and we're going to close up this window? All right, nobody wants to say anything? That's a bit surprising. They're all at a loss for words. Everybody's at a loss for words over your wonderful costume, Andre.
Yeah.
Just don't know what to say. Okay, so what I'll do now then is, and this is sort of my typical spiel, as a broker, I'm going to give you sort of my big picture analysis and then drill down to the shorter term analysis, and just give you sort of a snapshot of what it is that I'm looking at in the market right at the moment. Once I'm done my spiel, I'll hand the microphone over to Andre, and he'll give you his 2 cents. That's sort of how we do it around here. All right, so once upon a time, and this story basically is the same from week to week, with a little bit of added update on the most recent price action. So my story basically begins. I was a full-service broker for a number of years here in Canada, which meant you had to pass a whole bunch of regulatory hurdles, yada, yada, yada. But the long and short of it is that I have a background in financial planning. and asset management, and surviving as a broker. And a lot of the survival as a broker is just trying to keep yourself out of dangerous situations and keeping your clients out of dangerous situations. The best way possible to retain a client or even get new referrals is for you to counsel somebody to avoid something and then watching the asset price drop. So people absolutely love that. You know, they're not so concerned about the next stock that you pick and it goes up. Well, what they really like is if something is dangerous and the rest of the world is saying buy, 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 you come along and say, you know what, maybe there's a better time, better place to be a buyer, and it turns out that comes true. People will remember you for the rest of their lives. So, with that being said, I came to the Bitcoin world back in December, and really, I mean, you know, from an investing perspective, we're just looking at like a drop in the bucket for time here. Really, you know, 4 or 5 months in the marketplace is nothing. We could look back 5 years from now and just chuckle about this little correction in price here over this 4 or 5 month period as the market unwinds from the big bull run. But we may look back in hindsight and go, holy crap, do you remember that? Yeah, I sure do, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, looking back in hindsight, it would be very similar. You know, like we're talking about $400, $500, $600. Well, you know, there was a market not too long ago, if we just turn the clock back a year, where the Bitcoin was basically trapped between a range of about $250, $300, and you know, and these lows, you know, $60, $70. And you know, sure enough, if you could basically be patient and wait for the W type patterns to develop, you know, you got yourself in on the next big bull run. You know, because of a number of fundamental factors that are going on in our society. You know, I talk a bit about the greed and fear cycles that we're going through with regard to demographics. You know, there's lots of reasons why we can make the argument that hard assets are in favor over paper assets right now. You know, that's a conversation for another day. But, you know, if you want to learn more about that, feel free to, you know, download any of my course material. Or come into one of the tutorial sessions, and I'll be more than happy to bring you up to speed on that. But the long and short of all that is that you know, we're in a 17.5-year fear cycle, and basically people are fearful of paper assets, and something like a Bitcoin is an alternative to classic paper assets. So as a result, you get these kind of crazy moves from $50, $60, $70 to over $1,000. You know, this is par for the course. You know, really, you know, I was an options broker. I trade options. I trade penny stocks, so I can show you tons and tons of charts that go up tenfold. You know, that in itself is not that big of an event. What I've seen subsequently, again, in my mind, is actually very normal. I don't really see anything surprising here. So, you know, let's quit talking about the background and talk about, you know, what's actually going on. So, last significant weekly pivot was, let's just make sure you can see my chart, okay. Last significant weekly pivot low was this $83.26 on this Bitfinex. You know, we had a nice weekly breakout here, and I was talking with another gentleman the other day. I figure the last significant weekly breakout came on a move through these highs here at 134. So that's somewhere right in that neighborhood here. You can barely see that on the charts now. But in essence, this is sort of the the kind of price action I need to see. You know, basically down, up, down, up. So this makes a nice W on the weekly charts to tell me that we're in a bull market. Until I see this on the weekly basis, I don't believe we're in a bull market. So, we take a look at, obviously the breakout there from 135 bucks was money. And, if I was your broker, I would just simply say keep spoon-feeding the market stock, or, in this case, coins. Every time the asset doubles in price, out goes another half. So, from 135, out goes half at 260. So where was that hit? That was hit in this area. Then another half goes out at 500. So another sale would be in here. And then another half goes out up at 1,000. And not a big surprise that the market topped out comfortably above that 1,000 level. So, if you had bought on that weekly breakout from 135, you would have gotten all your original money back in your hands and be sitting on free coins as of 260. So that was right in this area here. You would have done a trade exiting there. Then, like I said, you would have sold another half up at 500 area. And then you would have sold another half up at 1,000. So this is just a very simple broker technique to generate lots of commissions, because look at all these transactions. But also it's a good financial planning tool in that, if you can get into a situation where basically the market gives you a free position, selling half on a double, then your downside risk is zero, because basically you're just playing with the market's money. And then every time it doubles, you just sell a little bit more. Now the interesting thing is, yeah, you would have sold some up here at 1,000, 1,100. You would still have a little bit of that original position on the books. Here you'd have half of it left. Here you'd have a quarter of it left. Here you'd have an eighth of it left. So you would still, at $460, have an eighth of the original position that you bought at this 135. So the sell half on a double strategy works great to force yourself to take profits. And because you're only selling half of the remaining position, you're actually always still in there. This thing could go off the board, but all you've got is an eighth of your original position. Now, what I would basically say is, whenever you see a market run up, basically this is what we call a market going parabolic. You may have heard that term before. But, stocks typically, and actually Flibbr did a bunch of work on this recently with Mr. Gann. But if you draw just a nice simple price axis, naturally speaking, assets want to move on about a 45-degree angle. And that's basically 1 unit for 1 unit. So 1 unit at a time, 1 unit of price. 1 unit at a time, 1 unit of price. This is a nice 45-degree angle. When we get assets that start moving in this curved fashion and then start going straight up, and excuse my crappy drawing, this is what we call a market going parabolic. In essence, it looks like a parabola. Remember, this is our nice, healthy, natural curve, this 45-degree angle. So obviously, when an asset's price goes parabolic, this is very unnatural and very unsustainable. It's just simple as that. The problem, of course, is exactly where does this thing stop going parabolic? And, sadly, usually it stops going parabolic the moment the public starts getting involved. I think the perfect anecdote, as a broker, I used to always counsel my clients that you never, ever, ever do what Goldman Sachs tells publicly what people should do, because usually that's the wrong thing. And so right up at the top of the market, Goldman Sachs came out with this wonderful report justifying why Bitcoin should be worth, I think it was $14 billion. Now, sadly, the sad part about it is that I honestly believe that Goldman Sachs was probably selling up here. But they publicly came out with this report saying why they thought $1,400 was great. Clearly, that was totally wrong. And, you know, Goldman Sachs is out to make money, so you have to ask yourself, were they really buying here? So, you know, that's a cautionary tale about Goldman Sachs. And, you know, that alone is probably worth watching this video tonight just to get that little piece of wisdom. You know, another great example was there's a company called Netflix, and Goldman Sachs came out with a buy recommendation on Netflix right at the top of the market. And you have to ask yourself, that's what they said publicly to do. What were they doing privately? And it turns out, it was later found out that they were actually shorting it. So, you know, just the fact that Goldman Sachs came out with this wonderful bullish report was in itself a big warning sign. There were also other warning signs. You know, there was cute little anecdotes on the popular business channels about people getting bitcoins in their stockings. And they were all the rage. And actually, I remember hearing a story back in December of one news anchor man who showed his little Bitcoin stocking on television, and somebody went and literally took his Bitcoins from him because he showed his password right on television. That's how naive and stupid these people are. So, you know, that was an excellent tell that the public was involved, the public was interested. So maybe that's a little bit of a warning sign. So, you know, like as shrewd investors, we always have to ask ourselves, you know, would a major institution chase this market up? And the simple answer is no. And if you would like to learn how major institutions trade, I highly recommend you go to this gentleman's YouTube page. It's 100% free. I think his name's Michael Huddleston. I always mispronounce his name. But anyway, Inner Circle Trader. And you can learn all about how institutions trade markets. And one of the main tenets of institutional investing is institutions do not buy up markets. For starters, you know, they can't get the volume in up markets that they need to get the fill size that they want. Ironically enough, institutions buy down markets. And as you can see on this flush downward, you got some serious volume here. And that's the only way major institutions are going to get filled in size, is they actually engineer these corrections to be able to buy in size. Because, I mean, if you wanted to buy 10, 20, 30,000 Bitcoins right now, and you just went in at the market, you could really affect price. And so as a professional, I can attest to the fact that institutions do not want to affect the price negatively against them. You know, if they're going to affect price, it's going to be in their favor, not against their favor. So if we understand that institutions don't buy up markets and they don't sell down markets, where would they buy? And the simple premise here is that if you look at the last weekly bottom, right, and we sort of figured that the last weekly pivot was this 135 area with the panic low. You know, there was a specific fundamental event around this $86 panic low. The easiest way for Joe's Six-Pack retail investors to get an idea of where institutions may consider buying a move like this, we simply rely to this concept called the optimal trade entry, or OTE. And so if you looked at any of my posts, I often make reference to this OTE zone. And the OTE, or the optimal trade entry, is basically this 61.8 to 78.6 Fibonacci retracement level. Now, you know, we as GAN followers, we love the 50% rule, and so that's basically sitting there. That's a nice natural level for markets to correct. If we want to take that analysis one step further, institutions will buy 61.8 to 78.6 pullbacks off of the original move. And the midpoint of those two levels is this 70.5, or what Mr. Huddleston likes to refer to as the sweet spot. What's a sweet spot? You know, I'm a tennis instructor on the side, and the sweet spot on a tennis racket is right in the middle. And it's basically where you want to try and hit all of your tennis balls. Well, you could argue that the sweet spot of the OTE zone is sort of like that magical area that you would love to be able to try and focus your attention on. Now, if we look at this market as a range market, where the top of this range is this 1175, and the bottom end of this range is this 83.26. If I can buy at this 70 level, and I'm expecting that the market is trapped in this trading range for the time being, and I will let the market tell me what to do next based on which end of the trading range it breaks, then by definition, if I buy at the OTE sweet spot, in this case it's 405 on the Bitfinex, then by definition this green box is my potential reward zone, and the red box is my potential risk zone. And so if I concentrate on only buying OTE sweet spots, then by definition, if we're basically playing a range market, then I have built in a better than 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio off of taking this setup here. So what does that sort of mean, all that being said? Very simply put, the market rallied from a very low level to a very high level, and it was only after the natural correction process do we actually get back into the area that I believe that institutions are interested in buying or owning this asset. And isn't it interesting that every time it zips down into this zone, it quickly gets rejected? All right? I mean, we went a little bit deeper here, but nonetheless, that's been rejected. So here's 3 separate occasions where had you bought in this OTE zone, you quickly were rewarded with profits. So put it all together on the daily charts, this is the area, if this is indeed a bull market, this is the area that I would expect this market to bottom in. And what I find really interesting is that the public is starting to lose interest. And I also notice that seasonally we're heading into a time of year when the public usually loses all interest in the stock market. So what a coincidence, we're into the seasonal bottoming window, we're into the OTE zone, and it's fascinating that Flibbr and I are now talking about how the China story is basically old news, and now we're starting to hear fundamentally good reasons why a next bull market can start. And oh, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, in early June, we're supposed to have the listing of a major American exchange. And it's my opinion, fundamentally, we can't get a new set of buyers to come into the market until that U.S. exchange is finally brought into being. All right, so daily analysis, huge run-up, natural correction, back into the area where institutions, if they were going to be buying, should be buying. This setup, by buying in this zone, sets up a nice at least 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio on this range. And put it all together, seasonally we're heading into a soft time of year. Good to see bottoms happen around that time of year. And, you know, like the China news has just basically driven everyone crazy out of monotony. And I can literally see the TradingView community, they're all starting to quiet down. Things have basically started to really settle down in the market. You know, I don't hear any Bitcoin euphoria anymore. So that's exactly what we want to hear. to start getting a bottom potential to come in here. All right, so that's sort of the daily analysis. Do we have W-type patterns on the, oh, that's a horrible W. Let's try that again. Do we have W-type patterns to justify looking for higher prices in the short term? The answer is no. But at the same time, we're very far away from the highs. So I, for one, am watching for this type of action. Over the next month or two, I fully expect to see this type of action. Not just yet, but my hunch is it's coming. So, good thing we're all paying attention. It's just a big hurry up and do nothing right at the moment. All right, so now if we zoom in, let's take a little closer look. We're going to sort of put on, that's sort of our investor hat. Now let's put on our trader hat. This most recent trading range, as you can see here, basically we had a high of 719 down to this low of 340. You know, Mr. Gann coming back, of course, will say, well, that's a nice 50% correction, so that's exactly what should have happened. So if this was some sort of panic low, where on, you know, a shorter term basis, where is it realistic for us to expect the market to top out? If we, you know, go back to our simple OTE concept, you know, those in the institutional community that are shorters, where are they going to short from if they want to try and sell against this trading range? Those levels, 61.8 to 78.6, paint a target window of about 575 up to 638. So, you know, that's a good $100 or so higher than where we are currently. So, you know, make no mistake, even though on the daily charts I'm still saying we're bearish, this is still a pretty wide trading range. I mean, this little thing can move easily 25% either direction, no problem whatsoever. So that's still on the table, and you'll notice that on the daily charts, that's our 200-day moving average. You see, and what you'll find over time is that these institutional levels often correspond with sort of classical technical analysis tools. So the fact that the 200-day moving average is sitting right in that window, to me, is confirmation that this is a very realistic possibility of happening. I think we have to get through early May and this June event. Maybe it's the June event that sets the stage for the rally up to there. But that's, you know, it's still floating out there. So if we take a look at something like a 4-hour chart, we'll zoom out a little bit on this. All right, so there is that 719 high down to the 340 low. And you can see, and you know, I like to use this Williams percentage R indicator, and by all means, if you'd like a tutorial on how that works, you know, feel free to bug me for that. We do have lots of resources to learn about each of all these indicators that we use, but basically the Williams percentage R indicator, the way I've designed this was designed to keep me from doing stupid things in the marketplace. So when we saw the Williams percentage R indicator get down into this oversold zone, especially the moving average, and we can zoom right in on that. And unfortunately, TradingView likes to have these little buttons here. Hopefully you can see this. But basically, Willie just kiss. Oh, there you go, minus 80.8. So Willie got stupid there. Any reading into the oversold zone on the moving average is a stupid reading. And the very simple message here is don't be stupid and sell when the market's here, because that is just the wrong thing to do. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a buy, but it does mean that maybe there's a better time if you're thinking about selling to do that. And sure enough, that stupid reading on a nice little double bottom basically came when the market was tanking and was on its knees. So indeed, that indicator did its job. The rally back, as you can see, here's that OTE zone up at 607, right? We're just sort of slowly working our way up into that area. And we came pretty darn close. I mean, we got as high as 547 here. Yeah, 547 high. So, you know, we came within 25 bucks to 61.8. Could we have another run up into this area? Sure, that's completely realistic. So let's, you know, just try and keep the current price action, you know, in perspective. If we did get that move up here, it would be a move through this midpoint, and hey, maybe we'll have some sort of W pattern start to form here, and I can actually start getting bullish again. That would be awesome. But as you can see, it's sort of this rally petered out and has been slowly working its way back down. And you'll notice that an OTE going in the other direction had a target of 401, 419 down to 384. The low made a week or two ago was 423.11. And frankly, I was a bit surprised that we didn't hit that 419. But nonetheless, 423.11 was the low. And as you can see, we did have a bear ABCD target. That's this dotted line here. That suggested that that really wasn't unrealistic of an expectation. And, you know, the question now is this next bear ABCD working? As long as these highs here remain, this bear ABCD harmonic pattern is still very much in play. And these highs, as you can see on this day here, this 4-hour bar, were 470.90. So as long as that 470.90 level isn't taken out, then this bear ABCD pattern, this harmonic pattern, is suggesting a test of this 401 area, and that's sort of my target for the time being. Sounds like somebody's going for a jog. Who is it I got to mute here? Troublemaker? Is that Andre? Oh, Andre.
No, not me.
All right, so I'm almost finished here, Andre. As soon as I'm done, then you get the floor. All right, so that's the 4-hour picture right now, slowly working its way down to this 401, and that's been sort of the theme of my posts of recent is, as I told you guys earlier, full disclosure, I'm just sitting in cash right now, and I'm waiting for this 4-hour OTE zone to be satisfied. Could we get something here that might prompt me to change my mind? Definitely. But as it stands right now, until this 470.90 level is taken out, I'm actually still working a bearish pattern right now. Even though we are trying to bottom here of late, I do see that the bottom here isn't really on very substantial volume, and we're actually starting to get a little bit of a MACD breakdown here. So we got to be careful of that. All right, so zooming in on the 1 hour now. So we'll just blow this picture up a little bit closer. Okay, so, you know, like my post of late, I think the last post that I published was talking about these very well-defined M tops here. Remember we said earlier, market structure, bearish action looks like M's, and bullish action looks like W's. So, you know, always ask yourself, what's the market structure? What does it look like? What is the market trying to tell me here? And clearly here we had M tops, which were lower highs and lower lows. That's this guy here, right? We were getting all of these all over the place. And it was basically saying, you know, we're putting in bearish market structure. The hourly OTE off of this latest move up here was this 443 area, and I had recently posted that I was waiting for that to be hit, and I wanted to see what the sort of ultimate play off of that was. You can see we came down to it violently. we tried to put in a double bottom, and it's fascinating because I was talking with somebody as this was going on, and I said, you know, very similar to what we're seeing right now. I said, you know, and I don't know whether this is too convoluted to see, but basically I said, you know, if we got to move through this high here, right through here, then that would be very W-ish, which would lead me to believe that we were getting bullish. And you'll notice that these highs put in kept being lower and lower. So this W pattern never developed. In fact, it was just more M's, just kept putting in more.
Oh, Brian, you got muted there. Somebody muted you, man.
It's probably Andre out of revenge.
Oh, I wasn't going to let you keep going.
Thank you, thank you. That's why I love having you guys in the lounge. So I don't know where I got cut off, but the long and short of it here is it looks to me like we're starting to try and put in W's, which is this kind of action, so we can actually start making a fundamental justification for higher highs and higher lows. Now you notice right now we're at a very interesting juncture right here. Where you can see we just had a big M put in, boom, with a breakdown. So there's a nice big M. And off of that M, they've rallied back up, and they're trying to break this top here. So if they can break this top here, then these will be higher highs and higher lows. This is very sloppy in here right now. You can see M, and then quickly they broke it. So to me, this says that there's a lot of indecision in the marketplace right now. This, in my opinion, doesn't bode well for the bulls because this low here was a V bottom, right? It wasn't a nice clean W. This was a new low that was put in here. So what that tells me is that if we do go up and, you know, into this OTE zone, right, and that's these boxes outlined here, this is what the trade setup risk reward would be, and frankly that doesn't look very appealing to me at all. So it's not a trade that I could consider doing. But if we get up into this OTE area, the 481, and we put in an M, then that might get me very interested in looking on the short side. So, you know, I think we could get a rally here, which would basically clean up this, you know, I would argue that the 411, or excuse me, this 423 area, maybe the market's getting a bit oversold. You see Willie here got nice and stupid. We had a nice bullish momentum divergence, nice little double bottom there. So, you know, longs in this area were fine, you know, from a trading perspective. 38.2 often puts up a major fight, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Huge fight, huge fight, huge fight, huge fight, huge fight. And my feeling is that we're trying to work up into this 481.20 area. Just to finish that thought off, here is the 15-minute chart, and if we zoom this out, alright, so here's this OTE zone, so that's up here. If institutions were going to short this thing, this red box is where they would short, alright? And what it looks like is the market's trying to stair-step its way higher. You know, is this a trade setup for me? Do I have any actual justification for buying in here? Because the higher time frames are still rather negative, I just can't take that setup. I have to obey the higher time frames. However, if we get a nice breakthrough here and then a consolidation, we might have the beginnings of the W's that I've been talking about. You know, I think it's still a bit early. When I look at this daily chart, we just had an M-top breakdown, and this was a V bottom in itself, so my hunch is this lows need to be tested at some point. And you'll notice, too, on the dailies, that this recent rally, you know, major resistance is these moving averages, right? We got two moving averages sitting right there. They're both sitting in the 460 area. So if we look at that on the very shorter term charts, 50% level 464, you know, we might get some euphoric spike into this OTE zone, but my hunch is if we did get in there, the smart money, they'll just hit it. That's my feeling. All right, so I think that basically summarizes my thought on the current Bitcoin market. You know, one might argue this is the definition of the dead cat bounce. We are bouncing right at the moment. Is this an optimal place to either buy or sell? In my opinion, if you're looking at the higher time frames and on the dailies, I wouldn't have a problem with Joe Sixpack going in and just slowly, maybe once a month, accumulating, you know, maybe a quarter of what it is you'd like to buy in this thing, and just accumulate that position over the next few months. I think that's a very smart idea because we're in this OTE zone. You know, individual investors, I don't think you should beat yourself up on trying to pick the exact bottom. We'll leave that up to Flibbr and other people. Is this a area where I'm pounding the table that yes, this trend is up and we're going straight up from here? No, I don't believe so. I think we still need to do a little bit more work before we're out of the woods just yet. All right, so that basically summarizes my 2 cents, and it's about 6 o'clock here, so I think we did well on time. And let's just see if Andre's around. Is the pirate here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so I've given you my 2 cents. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, well, I'll do what you did. I'll start off on the higher time frame. This is actually a weekly chart, and there's not that much to say about it really, but I was just looking at this today, and I did want to just highlight it out because it's just something I noticed. And what it is here is the weekly Willy was pretty much on about this level, actually, and it had already turned at this point. The price had already turned. We had already rallied a lot up from the 50 bottom, but you can see weekly Willy is pretty low right now. Yeah, it's pretty low with it, and also the Williams percentage I mean, he's almost on the floor. So that's quite a good sign as well. We've got these two long trend lines which I've drawn. If I just zoom out a little bit so you can see where they're from. The first one's just from the top. Just from the top of the spike. Probably better on the GOX data anyway, to be honest. There's a bit more data. But the reason why these are quite interesting is people say, oh, when's Bitcoin's price going to stabilize? Well, if you look at it, it's actually, you could say it's an ascending wedge. It's going to fall out soon. But the other thing you could say is as it bubbles up, if you notice each bubble, like this one, and this one, and this one, the very last one, each bubble, the amount it falls, the amount of damage done to the price is less and less. So probably as it gets up, kind of like the higher regions, the higher prices, it'll end up being just a lot more stable, and that's where I think the stabilization is going to come. But anyway, coming back to this weekly chart then. So that's where I draw the lines from, just off the top of that peak, cutting through the 266 peak, and it pretty much sliced through the top there. So I'll be keeping an eye on that on the next run up. But and also you can put in a weekly RSI and draw a trend line off that. You can see there's actually a bit of bearish divergence going on between these two peaks as well. And I spoke to Dan V, and he said, the last push is on a large bearish divergence as well. So, whatever that last one's going to be, we'll see. But yeah, basically the next 2 weeks are going to be really interesting because this is where we are. We've got the crossroads between the Silk Road support line, which we bounced off before, bounced off a few times. We've got the bear trend line dead ahead of us, and we've also got the weekly cloud staying up. So we can see the market, like Brian said as well. It's really, it's fighting. It's like when it's kind of 600 price and 700, it could fall down pretty easily. It's struggling to fall on these levels. This 400 to 500 range is pretty well supported here. There's a lot of buying interest going on here. There's a lot of buying. So yeah, the next 2 weeks.
What's that old high there?
This one here.
Not the most recent peak, but the peak before that. What is that high?
It's $14. So there was when's that? 2011. Yeah, there was a $14 to $7 thing come back to. Oh, it says 3 there. But when was that one? When was that one? Yeah, that one was 7. But this I think was kind of the tail end of the $30 bubble, which was a huge bubble. But yeah, that's my long-term outlook, and that's why I think it's all right, and that's why I think the next 2 weeks are going to be pretty interesting. We're going to run into this cloud. We've got all this stuff happening here. The next 2 weeks are going to be pretty interesting. So that's my 2-week outlook. That's my weekly outlook. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Good being bullish. And then I'll go to, let's have a look. This is a 4-hour on BTC China. Just noticing kind of inverse head and shoulders slowly forming, kind of like a mini shoulder was formed there, and hopefully this other one might get stuck in as well. So we'll see how that. It looks a lot better on Huobi actually. If you look on Huobi on the 2-hour or the hourly, you can see it since that drop. It's actually forming quite nicely. But if we go to the Bitfinex 4-hour, this is the same chart I had last week, and you can see from this 540 top to the first bottom, if you clone that as a bear ABCD move, you actually get this bottom here, which was the 50% retracement on the whole move from the bottom 350 up to the top. So that's the 50% move. And then if you clone it again off the bounce, you then get this 400 level, which is a great level because you can see it's the bottom of this candle. So I've been looking at this 400 level for days now, thinking, come on, it's got to get hit. So I like this. I got another ABCD. Exactly that one is exactly as that. All three are the same. So they're all pointing to this 400 level. I really, really like this 400 level. It's OTE zone off the whole move. It's just there's so much stuff pointing towards it. 4-hour clouds also coming down a little bit, and also 4-hour Willie's just. I noticed 1 hour is pretty high right now. It's been fighting a lot, struggling at this 450 level, but it's kind of sandwiched in. But 4 hours, he's got a little bit more to give. Possibly up to, like Brian said, this 460, 470 level, like into the cloud, and then 400 or 400 definitely looks like it could be there. But so that's the kind of the weekly and the 4-hourly, and then what I like is kind of like the 15-minute 1-hour chart. We'll just get rid of this, and this is what I think this is really interesting here, because we've got 1 hour right now just kind of burning himself out, and also from the kind of the crazy leg down where we have some bad China ban news. Apart from that, if I just get rid of Willie. Apart from that, if you take from the top fib to the absolute bottom, the 61.8 is this kind of it's got 553 level, and you see we've banged into that 553 level again and again and again. That's 61.8. But I actually drew that level anyway beforehand, just going off that bottom candle there was where I originally placed it from. So that 61.8 has obviously been a real fighting level, and obviously it's easy in hindsight, but this has been a lovely ranging market play. I mean, you've had loads of spikes there, but it's just trying to figure out what it's trying to do. But I put in there a bearish ABCD move, and would you believe where it takes you to? 400 again. So there's loads going on this 400 level, but the other thing is Brian was also talking about putting in a W, and I also looked at the W because I saw this down here on this 420 level, and I thought, yeah, we're taking off on it and stuff, but we haven't really put in a good solid base, I didn't think, and so with 1 hour just kind of burning itself out now, it would, and because support is so strong, it wouldn't surprise me if we did just work our way down and retouch this 420 level and then go back up again, and that could be, in essence, our nice big W bottom. It wouldn't take us to 400, but it doesn't have to. If this level holds strong, this could put in a nice W bottom. So overall, mid short term, I'm looking for kind of like 420, 400, but an upward side, I'm looking 630 to 720. I know the 721 sounds bonkers, but you saw how crazy it was when it went 350 to 550. So you never know when people think it's just time to get in, they just get in, can't they? So that's my kind of outlook, really. But I mean, it's been pretty difficult today because obviously today's been. I've got price alarm working at say we're going to go above 450, and I waited all day, and all we've done is just go sideways. So pretty slow day today. So yeah,
that's interesting in itself, though, because the comment that you made earlier, I think, is very telling. That when it's toppy, it's really easy for price to come down. But if you just look at that chart, each of these down moves has been a sucker move, and they've just punished people shorting. So my hunch here, just based on the price action alone, is they're grinding the market right now, really grinding it.
Oh yeah, it is, and you can feel it out there as well.
Yeah.
You can feel it out there. People don't want to sell. People don't want to sell at this level. They just don't want to. And you could say, well, given enough time, if buyers aren't there, they will sell, and yeah, they probably will. But yeah, people don't want to sell at this level, and people do want to buy at this level.
Yeah.
So you've got a pretty strong supportive base there, really.
And the only thing that's really driving price down is a story that we all know is getting really old.
Yeah.
At some point, the market's going to go, oh, fuck China, Don't tell me another damn China story. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And
actually, I can start to see that on the TradingView chat.
Yeah, and I just put on Reddit. This one here I was just looking at. Former Obama advisor Larry Summers to critics, don't write off Bitcoin, and I wrote another reason to buy. I like this one as well. Just like the internet tore down the walls of ignorance that kept humanity from learning about itself, Bitcoin will dispel the arbitrary borders and regulations holding back world commerce. Governments have much reign over as cryptocurrencies as they do with the law of mathematics. And, I think people do know it. And the only reason people do sell is because they want more coins for cheaper. And it's got to that kind of level now where I think, is the risk reward of selling, is it there,
That's a good point too, right? Is that people are now waiting to buy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like they're like, I don't know what the hell to do with this thing, just sell it. No, that's not the mentality that I'm hearing out there. Everybody's like, Oh, I want it to go a little lower so I can buy. I want it to go a little lower so I can buy. I mean, if you get enough people like that, guess what's going to happen? It's not going to go down.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. And everybody wanted to buy on this 440 level. Everyone wanted to buy there, and it got down there when it dropped pretty hard, and I bought. But my strategy itself has changed. Because whereas before, for say the last couple of months, it's been more like getting along, get out as soon as it feels risky. It's not, don't worry about it because it's kind of trending down anyway. Whereas now I'm thinking shorting is becoming a bit more risky, especially like the last few days, in this low 400 range. Shorting is becoming more risky, and if anything, I'm just looking for I'm looking for long positions. I know that actually haven't been very good, but so maybe that's it's a bad thing, but it's I'm shifting my mentality here. I'm looking for long positions. I'm looking, that's the kind of direction I'm looking for. So it'll probably just tank down to 200 by next week, and I'll be going, but that's what I'm thinking anyway.
I just if we could fast forward 1 month from today, then I would just be like, buy.
Yeah.
We just have this really tacky window that we have to get through, and frankly, I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's telling that we had a Fed day today, so that probably dictated a lot of trade. We didn't hear a lot of talk about either tighter policy or weaker policy from the Fed. So, I just, my hunch, because I'm trading crude oil through the day, basically, I think the market was feeling, there he is, he's back. My feeling is that the broader market itself is on edge right at the moment. It can't quite figure out Fed policy, and it's waiting for this other shoe to drop. We've got this funny situation going on in Eastern Europe right now. People aren't quite sure what to make out of that when it comes to the broader economies. From what I understand, the Russian market actually rallied today. So, I think the market needs for that to become old news, kind of like our China story. There may be, I've played this game so many years that, the irony of life, they say, is you cannot write better fiction than reality. So whatever the actual reason for the market having that final leg down to 400 is, I don't think anybody here could even write the story half as good as what it's actually going to be, what the actual reason is going to be. But just because I've played this game for so long, I just personally would like for us to be 1 month from today, and then I'd be more than happy. And I'd like for it to be 1 month from today and price to look uglier. That would be awesome. Yeah. Then I would feel like, we've gone through the seasonal correctional window, the public is done, and we probably have 4 or 5 months of good times ahead of us. So, I sort of agree with your analysis. Basically, we've got a funny little window here that we've got to get through. Once we're on the other side of that window, though, I think we could, be seeing some really, really bullish action ahead of us.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, I mean, I shorted it before when it took this last leg down. It's been bouncing up then, and I've been with other people in the chat saying, saying down. This is going to go down. And I've been willing it to go down. I want it to go down because I want cheaper coins. You know what? It just won't go down. It's people just dumping big coins, and there's just more bids, just keep filling it back up. So I've seen we've seen just yesterday we saw probably 3,000 bid wall on both Stamp and Bitfinex. So people are there's a lot of fiat waiting to come back in, and they're waiting for the right time. You know, like they've accumulated obviously a lot of coins as well, but they also want a lot of fiat because they want to pump up. They want to pump it up as well, because they know that if a lot of people sell and get out of position, and they take it up $50, people are going to be thinking, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and then it then starts to rally again. People think, oh, you know what, I better just get in, just cut my losses, I'll just get back in, and that in itself helps fuel the rally. So you know they want some fiat left over to you know to help get the things started as well. And I've noticed the last 3 nights in a row, at about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning GMT time, we are having kind of two or three 300 bid walls come up at the front of the book on Bitfinex and Stamp, and I think it's somebody just testing, are people ready? So
just to dovetail that sort of thought about, where actually can this realistically go, I've just put on my daily chart here the OTE short. If, and it's a big if, but if this 340 is the low, we can realistically expect to see the better part of $900 on this next rally. That's not out of the question, in my opinion, whatsoever.
no, not at all. And I mean, when you look back to what it did last time, it went 266 down to 50, up to 140, and then back to 50 again. And so that kind of 140 figure would be like that kind of 900 figure. It doesn't make it all the way up to kind of 1,000, but it gets up to 900 maybe, and just kind of floats along a while,
Yeah, so that last cycle, and the irony of it all is that through this cycle, people were like, wow, these are huge prices, right? I mean, you can make the argument that, she ultimately bottomed down in this area, and I don't know why the chart's not updating, so I apologize for that. But this is 60 some odd dollars on this FNX, and like I said, got up to it basically doubled, right? More than a double.
Well, that's it. You can see it got to that level pretty much where it was before on the kind of the run after the bubble, and just kind of stayed there for a while then, and everyone was like, oh, what's happening? Or is it just another fake run up, or are we going to go? And then slowly it just took off and just accelerated into oblivion, didn't it?
Well, I know that there was a significant fundamental event right here. I can't remember what the news was in particular, but clearly this was the pivot on the market, and then once it recaptured this 135, see ya. Yeah. So I guess what you could argue, just looking at our action now, a doubling of this 340 basically paints $700, right? And I'm a really big fan of the 38.2 fib, and 38.2 fib sitting at 660 area. So that's, to me, and there's our OTE staring at us in the face. There is mounting evidence for a substantial capital gain to be had. We just got to get through this next month. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. And this, like I said, the 200 moving average is just way off at the moment on the daily as well. So so we do like to return to that at some point as well. But like I say, we could have a month now of not rallying, but just crawling, fighting, and just dredging our way back to kind of higher figures before people kind of go, hey, okay, I'll buy if it gets above 550,
Yeah, well, so our key to watch obviously is this high right here. What is that? 547. It's interesting you picked that 550 number. So we'll be watching that intently. I wouldn't be surprised if they creep it up here, break that, and then roll it over just to wash out any weak hands.
Yeah.
having said that, I mean, like, I think if and for all those that are watching out in internet land and anybody in the lounge, I highly, highly encourage you to take some time and just watch this Inner Circle's these field sniper guides that he does, where he just slowly goes through and explains how institutions think in the marketplace, and that's this whole concept of the OTE. So it really shouldn't surprise us as technicians that, yeah, anytime she gets down into this 400 area, the institutions are like, all right, back the truck up, time to buy. So not a big surprise.
Yeah, well, I mean, Spencer just said in the chat that those bid walls are on stamp now, and yeah, it's there, it's on stamp, just giving it a bit of a shove. Because sometimes it needs a bit of a push, just to get it going in the right direction. People get, because I said this before, I said nobody wants to buy when it's on the way down, but when it's on the way up, it's like everybody wants to buy. It's like the price at 420, and there's not a bid on the book. Everybody's like, I'm not buying. We'll let it go lower. And then as soon as it's going 430, 440, people are like, I'll kill for 420. So when it's going up, so sometimes, like I say, it needs a push in the right direction. And as it gets the push, people go, okay, I'll buy. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna buy it. Yeah. Oh, it's going up. I want to buy it. I want to buy it because it's going up. It's going to make me money. So people, it kind of like, it's a self-perpetuating greed cycle.
Well, we always say this is the only business where when stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so it's now about 6:30. I think we've done a fairly comprehensive review of the coin. By all means, if there is interest, we can take a quick look at the Litecoin or any of the alts. It's interesting that you were able to chart the Chinese Bitcoin, because I didn't think TradingView would let you chart. I guess it doesn't let you chart Huobi, does it?
Yeah, it's just not Huobi, it's just BTC China.
Based on our little, where is that thing? Where is it? It's around here somewhere. Maybe I got rid of it. There it is. We've talked a little bit about fundamental drivers. We've talked a bit about, sort of the atmosphere right now. This is a funny time of year we have to be careful of. We've done a simple daily 4-hour, 1-hour, 15-minute analysis on my part. Fibber's given you sort of the same thing, daily 4-hour, 1-hour, 15-minute analysis and what he's seeing. We're at the point now on the show where we like to open up the floor to questions. So by all means, if you have a question, feel free to type it into the chat. As well, those people watching on YouTube, I'll pop over there, just see if we have anything. Looks like we have a few viewers, but no comments right at the moment. Let's see what happens if I click on this. Oh, okay, we're pretty quiet. So that's fine. So, question for the group, those that are in the lounge, if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have an idea that you think needs to be at least heard, now is your opportunity. So tell us what you think.
While anybody might be typing one up, I just thought I'd mention this in case anybody's interested. So I have been speaking with the Mt. Gox people lately, and there is the 3 options for the resolution to Mt. Gox. We've got liquidation, we've got a takeover by OKCoin, China largest volume China exchange. Turn Flibbr up, Brian. He said, turn me up.
How do I do that? I haven't got
you go to the control room, maybe? Control room?
Control room, alright.
Try turning me up.
So, whoa, look at all this fun stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, Mt. Gox. You've got liquidation, you've got takeover by OKCoin, and you've also got takeover by Sunlock Group, and the OK coin takeover sounds like the best one. You're getting access to your coins immediately, and you're also getting 49% stake in the company as well. So,
Does that help us end?
Is it better?
I didn't mean to interrupt. I turned Andre up to maximum volume.
Cool. But yeah, that's in case anybody here's got anything to do with GOX, you know. Cool.
I'm sorry, Andre. So, summary is you have 3 options. Number 1 is they just go into insolvency. Number 2 is they get taken over. Isn't there like a private group that wants to try and take them over?
Yeah, well, there's two takeover attempts. There's one by Sunlock Group Holdings, which is the American Wall Street boys that you know want to take it over, and they want to use some of your money as like a bounty to recover the stolen money. They want to use some of your money for the audit process. They want to give you a 16% cut, and they want to and you won't be able to withdraw your money for 12 months either. Okay, so that's the one option. The other option is by Shu, his name is. He's the guy that runs OKCoin. He wants to give you 49% stake in the company. He wants to give you access to your money straight away, and he won't use any of customer money to do anything like this. So he's
It sounds to me like your choice should be pretty easy to make.
Yeah, so far. But the Wall Street guys have got a big PR team, you know, or big PR effort going on, and they're kind of like emailing the Wall Street Journal, telling them that you know, that whatever, you know, they've got all creditor support. But there's a creditor meeting in a few months, so keep an eye out on the Mt. Gox website for that. And also, we're waiting for Shu, the OKCoin guy, to actually submit his report to the supervisor in writing. I won't go on too long because it's boring for those who aren't interested. But yeah, just keep an eye on the website and message me on and message me on TradingView if you want any info about it.
It's tough to take a pirate seriously, isn't it?
I should change it, shouldn't I? I've become a fairy now.
No, don't do that. All right, well, that's interesting, you know, and you know, fingers crossed for you, Flibbr. I mean, man, you've gone through a world of pain on that, so I mean, you deserve all my empathy and my best wishes. I sure hope that works out for the best for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's. I mean, frankly. Oh, now he's an angel. If you can get anything out of that, then I would consider it a win. So.
Well, that's it. With the OKCoin, I mean, you're getting 26% of your coins back, which in itself is really good. But it's going to get a load of money back, and you're getting a 46% stake in the company. And OKCoin, being the largest Chinese exchange right now, they've already got an existing Bitcoin trading platform. And they know how to do the job well, so I hope that's going to come out. So we'll see.
So you get a whole well? So do you think that maybe OKCoin is trying to figure out a way to get out of China?
Yeah, well, they've already said they want to you know, internationalize. They've already said on their website. I posted the link in chat the other day. They've already said on their thingy that they are testing their overseas platform. They've got 10 million in funding. OKCoin did, so they want to you know, they want to have, you know, they know the USD market is big. They said that they want to relocate because of you know, restrictions as well. So yeah, so OKCoin you know, would definitely be the best result for Mt. Gox, you know, so far, I think. But you know,
that's fascinating. I don't know whether you're aware or not, but China and Japan have a very interesting historical relationship. So it's fascinating to watch it all come full circle now. That would be hilarious if China came to Mt. Gox's rescue.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's got the existing platform and stuff, so hopefully that'll come through.
And what's the news on this? What's the founder of Mt. Gox's name again? I forgot his name.
Mark Karpels.
So what's the skinny on him? Does anybody know what the latest news is? I mean, is he going to actually face any jail time?
Well, he said that the coins were hacked, and that that what he said basically was that balances were adjusted on the site of users, so people could kind of just buy infinite amount of coins if they wanted to. And somebody posted on Bitcoin Talk today a chart showing in July 2013 huge amount of withdrawals of Bitcoins from Mt. Gox. Really suspicious. But Mark's just said, we can't trace them. It's just an address on the blockchain. But he could have hacked them himself and just ciphered them. We don't know, and it's who knows what's going to happen on that. Who knows?
I suppose there really aren't any laws even on the books about this, eh?
Well, that's it, because it's such an innovative thing. I mean, you go to the police and say, I've had my Bitcoin stolen. Probably half of those police can't even work email. Never mind, what a Bitcoin is.
Yeah. All right, gang. So we've given you an opportunity. Anybody in the lounge here have any questions that they would like to pose?
I would just say on the Mt. Gox thing, of course the government's going to have an agenda, and it's not in their best interest to protect the people. They want to smash this Bitcoin thing, so they're not going to bring justice as far as the legal avenue. Look at the money laundering.
The Japanese government
guy. They arrested him right after the event to make Bitcoin look bad.
So he was arrested and then later let out on jail and no charges were laid?
Wait, Andre, help me out. Who was the guy that was arrested in New York?
Charlie Schramm.
Yeah.
And they just had to release him later on because they just didn't have any grounds for holding him? I'm just
my point is that they'll prosecute him on lesser evidence, but they won't prosecute an actual person that we have tons of evidence, foul play, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, so I think SN's just trying to make the point here that they're going to charge Charlie Schramm, with money laundering and all these kind of crimes, but they won't use the same kind of prosecuting evidence against, say, the banking sector. It's like I saw on whatever it was the other day. It said how many Wall Street protesters got arrested, and it was 25,000. They're all walking across the bridge, and they all got arrested. 25,000 arrests were made during those Wall Street protests, and the bankers, and that kind of caused foreclosures around the world, whatever, all this kind of stuff. Then not any kind of justice has been meted out to them.
Yeah.
They weren't put in the gallows to be pelted.
Yeah, interesting.
In the stocks.
All right, gang. Well, it's about 20 to 7 here. I think we've covered everything. If I thought we might have a bit more feedback or questioning from the panelists, but if that's all we're doing, then so be it. Looks like our little rally forecast is playing itself out here. So.
Oh yeah, they're going for it, aren't they?
I suppose somebody was mentioning earlier that the Chinese are just waking up to their new day, so we'll see whether we have a pump in store for the next little bit. Other than that, I don't know. Are you feeling like you've said your piece tonight, Andre?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, I could actually talk to death about Bitcoin. I've got so much to talk about Bitcoin, I could bore everyone stupid with it. But, yeah, I really have. I've got so many ideas about it. But well, the only other thing I'd say, because we spoke about fundamental thing, and this, I'll just make it brief, is he said, oh, what was that fundamental driver that caused that little dip, that spike in the price in here? And that was basically when the Silk Road got busted, where you could buy all your illegal drugs online. And as a black market, the black market is a huge market. And with the new dark market, which has been set up, and with the new dark market that's been set up by I forgot how you pronounce the second name, it's a decentralized marketplace. So it means that people can sell their drugs and their weapons and whatever online, and there is no central point of failure. So this will mean that access to drugs and stuff will be sold online on the internet, and it'll be completely and utterly unstoppable. And everybody that wants to buy drugs, rather than they can sit there in their pajamas having breakfast, buying their weed, rather than going out to wherever place, they're going to say, well, I need to buy some Bitcoin to do that. So that in itself, I think, could be a good driving force for price as well. More demand.
I can understand the functional side of that. I mean, what I find really interesting these days is, I just filed my tax returns in Canada, and now in Canada, they want you to let the government know if you have assets over, X amount of dollars every year on your tax return. And whether you have them in foreign holdings or whatever. So it's fascinating to watch how our governments that theoretically are supposed to be working for us really want to try and nail down, all the assets that you have and make sure that they're taxed. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole Bitcoin, because a big hurdle as a Canadian going down to the States, you're only allowed to take X amount of dollars with you. Whereas I could, especially if they have these vending machines down in San Francisco now.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I could go online right here in Vancouver and buy $1 million worth of Bitcoins, and then walk down to San Francisco to one of these vending machines and just withdraw $1 million in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the government would have absolutely no way to track that.
Yeah. Oh,
I think you're absolutely right.
Super disruptive.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting anecdote. Like I said earlier, you can't write better fiction than reality. It's like you can see the future's coming at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Well.
And you can see the future. You can, I joke with people that I broke my crystal ball last week, so I can't see what's going to happen. But, if you study this stuff long enough, I mean, you can really, literally see the writing on the walls, I guess the question is, can we take advantage of this phenomena heading into this cycle peak? Because, as a cycle person, I feel very confident that we're going to head into just a nutso market in 2017, 2018. That will be when Joe Sixpack wants to use Bitcoins. The question is, as smart investors, are we going to be taking profits into that event? It's going to be tough to see.
Spencer just wrote, but we don't want to have the stigma that Bitcoin is for drugs. But, I mean, do we have the stigma that cash is for drugs? Right? No, we don't. Just because you can buy drugs online with Bitcoin doesn't mean there has to be a stigma there to do with it. And besides, anyway, I wouldn't say it is a stigma. I'd say it's a tool of liberation. It's actually something great. You can say, look, this drug policy, I don't own my own body, and I can't choose what to do with it. And the government makes it really hard for me to do that. But Bitcoin has liberated me. It's given me freedom. Freedom of free market. So I'd say just positive, positive, positive. and they've brought out this new wallet which is going to make it easier to kind of put money launder and mix money around. People say, oh, we don't want to, no, it's going to be bad for Bitcoin. It's going to be more good for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is great.
Well, I think we'll all take from this message that you're slightly biased, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Very, very biased.
I would agree with Spencer. Like, Reformation England, right? I mean, you could make the argument that through the Protestant Church and all that, that was a democratic movement, but you often get these sort of counter-trend moves. And the counter-trend moves can be very dangerous. So if we get some sort of major U.S. politician backed by the Tea Party or something like that, that makes it a concerted effort to brand Bitcoins as the currency of drug dealers, that could really undermine the Bitcoin story. So, I would be cognizant of that fact and understand that reality is out there. That is a definite potential. What I found really interesting, which really surprised me, was how much the U.S. government and politicians actually really like Bitcoin. And I was reading about how the Federal Reserve Board in St. Louis, they have monthly open forum meetings on Bitcoin. I don't know whether you guys are aware of that or not. So the feds, they're meeting about Bitcoin all the time and talking about it. And I think I got the impression that somebody believes that. Well, you even posted earlier that Larry Summers. And I know Larry Summers quite well. Basically, he was Alan Greenspan's and Ben Bernanke's lackey. And he also worked with a gentleman by the name of Paul Rubin. Rubin was Clinton's Treasury Secretary. And Summers was Rubin's deputy. Turns out, Mr. Rubin now is a big wig at Goldman Sachs. What a coincidence. So I would, and that's the one interesting anecdote I find about all this, is that the U.S. government itself has actually taken a positive view of Bitcoin rather than a negative one. That actually surprises me a bit.
Yeah, they have. And
I think it's also important too to point out that I don't believe personally that the U.S. Fed really liked the fact that they had to do what they did through this cycle. People say, oh yeah, they're printing money and they're just having fun and they're lying to us and blah, 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 blah. I think that the Fed was expecting the democratically elected politicians in Washington to deal with the fiscal problems. The politicians in Washington did absolutely nothing about their problems. And the Fed was just forced to do whatever it could to save the economy. That's sort of the way I look at it. So from that perspective, it makes sense why the Fed likes Bitcoins, because maybe Bitcoins will force the politicians in Washington to actually do something.
Well, I think we've got two then, haven't we? Because we've got me, Mr. Pro Bitcoin, down, destroy the Fed. And then we've got you, Brian. I think you're slightly biased, pro favor of the Fed. So.
Well, what I really like is having a lender of last resort.
Yeah.
So, and for whatever it's worth here, guys, I see you chit-chatting away here. My 15-minute Willie here is, he's moving up. The MACD double bottom is in there. You can see it breaking out. And you can see OBV is breaking out here too. So I wouldn't be in a hurry to get in front of this.
No, I wouldn't be in a hurry either, because Willie can get entrenched up there, and it can stay up there for a lot longer than you think.
Yeah, I mean, you see the bull ABC projections. You see the head and shoulders projections. I think we can easily reach up into this 450, 460 area, no problem. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. I mean, it's 450, 455, 457, 457 on Phoenix right now. I wouldn't. I'm just gonna sleep in coin tonight because I don't think it's gonna be on a. I don't think you have to hurry about trying to catch the top on this because I don't think it's charging enough to kind of put in a spike, top. I think it'll be a rounded top. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also too, I mean they ran the stops out there below that little green box that I have on here. So there's lots and lots of stops just underneath here. So they ran them out here. So I don't think there's a lot of people short right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Well, I think that was a pretty productive little get together we had tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Good. I hope all of you in the lounge had a good time. We have a pretty full house here tonight. And those on YouTube and those that will watch this program later, I hope you've enjoyed it. I think the bottom line message tonight, it seems to me, I think, is, we're probably closer to the bottom than we are the top. Where exactly is the bottom? It may have already been put in. It's tough to say. But the long and short of it here is I think, we've gone through the healthy correction process. And, for those that have been able to stick around and stick through all this mess, I think you'll be rewarded over time. And it was just a question of cleaning the market up, in my opinion. Quick plug out there for the site. You're more than welcome to visit therationalinvestor.ca and take advantage of any of the free resources that are available here. If you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, of course, we'd love donations are always appreciated. You can go to the site and get the link pretty easily there. As well, I would encourage you, if you like to get notices of when these shows are on, and then all the various different models that I run 5 different models on the investing process. Feel free to subscribe to my Twitter feed to get the updates on those. Other than that, I think we've basically come to an end. I want to thank everybody again. If I missed you before, we'll go through it again. Thank you very much, Andre, for your excellent work as always and awesome analysis. And I guess now we'll have to call you Professor, huh?
Yeah, that's it. I've gone from the pirate to the professor, you see. I did that deliberately.
Thank you, Ascend, and Brian, and Christopher, and Griel Lame. I probably totally butchered your name. Sorry, buddy. Who else we got in the room? Lee, Marcus, Spencer. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Sorry I did that. And Julian, thank you very much for being in the lounge today. G-Home. That's how you pronounce it? All right. Thank you, G-Home. And thank you everybody out on YouTube, Internet Land, for watching and participating in any way that you could. We'll see you all again next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. And until then, happy trading. Good luck to you in your endeavors, and God bless. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you all again. Cheers.
See ya.